Hey everybody, Rick here from BC Firearms Training. Today what I want to do is make some videos which will help students of mine and other students of the Canadian Firearms Safety course pass the practical exam. This is basically study material for those students. If you are an experienced firearms user, you might find this material far too basic. And if that's the case, feel free just to go on to another video of mine or other videos. Now, if you are planning on taking the firearm safety course, then I do recommend that if you've never touched a firearm before, if you have very limited knowledge, that you watch these demonstrations. Without further ado, let me get down to showing you how to clear different firearms for the practical test of the Canadian Firearms Safety course. Hey everybody, Rick here from BC Firearms Training, and I'm going to be demonstrating to you how to clear and how to prove safe a semi-automatic pistol today to the standard required for the Canadian Firearms Safety course. Today I'm going to be showing you a few different firearms and talking about them as well. When you come into the practical test, the instructor may ask you to identify and pick up the semi-automatic pistol. He may ask for a double action semi-automatic pistol, a striker fired, or a single action. In this case, I normally just ask them for a semi-automatic pistol and let them choose. When I pick up my semi-automatic pistol, I'm going to keep it pointed in a safe direction. I'm going to need to remove the magazine. There's a magazine release button right here behind the trigger guard. Now I'm going to press that with my thumb and remove the magazine. Put it on the table. Now I need to open the slide. We have some serrations on this side of the gun and some serrations on this side of the gun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, with the heel of my palm of my left hand, put my palm here, the heel here. I'm going to wrap my fingers over top near the back. I'm going to push forward with my right hand, pull back with my left hand, and I'm going to push up on the slide lock slide release here with my right thumb. Now I'm going to do that using that as my safe direction so you can see what I'm doing. If you can go into your workspace, which means that you turn sideways to the downrange. And you have the firearm out here, about our forearm's length out in front of your body, and about sternum length, so you can see what you're doing and work with the firearm. Now, I'm going to release my magazine, and I'm going to put it on the table. I'm going to reach over top with my hand, my left hand, and I'm going to bring my left hand that way, my right hand that way, and my thumb up. I'm going to lock the slide open. I'm then going to cradle the firearm in my hand, observe the chamber, verify that the feeding path is empty, and then examine the bore. Now I know that my firearm is empty. At this point, the instructor may ask you what ammunition that firearm discharges. I'm going to look on the left side of this firearm and note that it's not specified on the slide. So I'm going to move my body around the gun and look on this side. And I'm also going to note that it's not specified. So at that point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close the slide because it is specified on the chamber hood on the barrel of the firearm. I'm going to read that, and it says 45 auto, or otherwise known as 45 ACP automatic Colt pistol. And then I'm going to open the slide again. At that point, the instructor will probably say, please load and specify a certain number of cartridges and then chamber one of the cartridges. So you'll put the firearm down on the table. You'll pick up the magazine and you'll put the flat end of the magazine in your web of your left hand between your index finger and your thumb. Wrap your fingers around it and bring it in front of you like that. Then you'll find the cartridges and you'll check the cartridge head. And this is very important. You have to check the cartridge head. when you do have the correct cartridge, you'll bring it in front of you just like that, the flat end between your index finger and your thumb, pressing down with your thumb in front of these things called feed lips here, where the lips of the magazine fold over, and press back with your thumb. Now if he's asked you to load 5 cartridges, you'll check each one of the cartridges before putting it into your magazine. Then you'll put your index finger along the rounded edge of the magazine, pointed at the bullet part of the cartridge. Pick up your firearm again and go back into your workspace. Insert the magazine inside the magazine well, reach over top, pull back, and let go. Now you can, using that as my safe direction now, if it doesn't go forward, simply push down on the slide lock slide release either with your right thumb or with your left thumb. At this point, the instructor will likely ask you to demonstrate a two-handed shooting stance. So I'm going to do the Isosceles Stance today. I'm going to stick my right thumb way up into the air. I'm going to put my support hand in and make sure that the heel of my left hand is touching the grip. Then I'm going to cock my hand forward a bit, almost like I'm pointing my thumb at what I want to shoot at. And I'm going to rest it on the frame of the firearm just underneath the slide. Then I'm going to rest my shooting hand thumb on the back of my support hand thumb. I'm going to unlock my knees. I'm going to lean forward just slightly. Then I'm going to push the firearm out and up towards my eye level. At that point, the instructor will likely say cease fire. Now you're going to go through prove, because prove is the unloading sequence. So I'm going to remove my magazine. Now, switching to that side as my safe direction so you can see, I'm going to grab back here and make sure that I'm back so that my hand is not covering the ejection port. When I pull back, the cartridge will come out. Observe the chamber, verify the feeding path, and then examine the bore. And now this firearm is clear, and I can put it down. Now I want to discuss the difference between double action, double single action, double action only, single action only, and then striker fired. This is a double single action firearm, otherwise known as a double action. This has a magazine release or disconnect, so I have to insert the magazine for this demonstration. So, when I load the firearm and put it round in the chamber, the hammer is back on this firearm. This firearm has what's known as a decocking lever. To safely carry this firearm, I have to lower the hammer. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to move my thumb down over the decocking lever, and that will safely lower the hammer. Now the trigger is disconnected. In order to discharge this firearm, I have to push that decocking lever up. Now I can pull the trigger. The first time I pull the trigger, it's a long, heavy trigger pull, and it cocks and releases the hammer. It does 2 actions: cocks and releases the hammer. After I take my first shot, the slide will come back and reciprocate, and it will cock the hammer on its own. Now I'm in single action, and I can barely have to move my shooting finger, my trigger finger, and I can fire again. It's a very light, very short trigger pull. That's single action. All the trigger does right now is trip the sear, which will release the hammer. Double single action. What if I had a double action semi-automatic pistol, but I did not have a decocker? So the hammer will be back, but to safely holster this firearm, I need to lower the hammer. I'm going to use a 2-thumb method of lowering the hammer. I'm going to put my my support hand thumb, I'll use that as my safe direction, my support hand thumb between the frame and the hammer. I'll pull back on the hammer with my strong thumb, pull the trigger, and release the hammer down. If my strong thumb slips off of the hammer spur, my weak thumb is blocking it from falling all the way down. That is the two-thumb method to lower a hammer on a semi-automatic pistol, double single action. There are some semi-automatic pistols that are single action only, like this 1911. When I load this, I don't have a magazine right now, but I would insert the magazine, rack the slide, and the hammer is back. So what I could do if I'm starting a stage is I could push this safety up, this wing safety. That's cocked and locked. Now, I also have a grip safety on this, so I have to have a grip on this firearm in order to discharge this firearm. If the hammer's back and I don't have a grip on this safety, it won't fire. If I have a proper grip on this firearm and the wing safety is up, again, I can't fire the gun. When I want to fire, I thumb down on the safety and then I can discharge a round. Single action only, with the hammer down, the trigger doesn't do anything. Single action only. We also have striker fired firearms. Now, depending on what you read, some people consider these to be single action only. The FBI and the RCMP consider it to be double action only because the trigger does finish the cocking mechanism of the firearm before you can fire it. We're going to clear this firearm exactly the same. Remove the magazine, put our thumb up underneath the slide lock slide release and bring the slide back, observe the chamber, verify the feeding path, and then examine the bore. You've probably noticed there is no hammer on this firearm because all of the firing mechanism is inside. This is a very consistent trigger pull, and this one is around a 5-pound trigger pull. Thank you for watching my presentation on how to properly prove a semi-automatic pistol safe to the standard of the Canadian Firearms Safety Course.